Hello again, Broncos country. David, you give me that look every time I do that, and I feel like you don't like it, and I don't know why.
No, at this point, I feel like if I don't give you the look, it's not the ritual's not complete. Like, you have to do the hello
okay.
Broncos country, and I have to give you the look when you do it, and otherwise it's not. It
just doesn't work that way.
No,
okay,
right.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, well, hey, we're here because it's game day. It's game day. We're playing the Packers at home, looking for our first home win of the season. Unfortunately, our first quarter of the year has been abysmal, to say the least. I think is probably the way that we could probably look at that. However, it is great to see as we're watching the earlier games this morning. It's great to see the Bears doing what they were doing against the Raiders. I haven't seen an update from that, but last time I saw, they were destroying them.
It's 30-12. They're going to win.
Yeah, they're going to win that one.
Left. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. That's great to see a team that we beat the Raiders. Now we just have to come back and beat the Raiders when we play them again. I know they're without their people, but guys, we're here to talk about the Broncos versus the Packers. Game time starts in about 30 minutes. So we're here for the tailgate talk. We're here for you, the watchers, the listeners, as we're going through. Allison, welcome. Denver Broncos for life. Packers are struggling, David. They're struggling just as much as we are in their season. On an expected season, they were supposed to be a pretty decent team this year. How are we feeling about this game right off the bat?
Well, mixed feelings, because I'll tell you, they've got some, we just found out Elton Jenkins, their offensive lineman, really good. He's going to play.
Yes.
But was kind of trending toward maybe not playing as the game started, so maybe not 100% at the very least. They're not going to have Jair Alexander. These Packers
That's
aren't.
huge.
So very, very big deal. So it's going to be kind of it's just a situation where you're going to have opportunities against this Packers team. Now, one player they are going to have back that has me all kinds of concerned is Aaron Jones. And we've seen the Broncos run defense be generous, to say the least, this year. And with Aaron Jones, one of the best running backs in the league, coming back with this team that likes to zone block so much, comes from that Shanahan tree with Matt LaFleur as their head coach. I'm concerned. Concerned is the word.
Yes, absolutely. Good news on the Broncos defensive front, though. It looks like obviously Justin Simmons is playing. We got Baron Browning is back.
Baron Browning
coming in. What we can get him charged up, maybe get a big welcome back sack would be great. And the only inactives that we have to really mention that would be big that people to think about. JL Skinner is still out, so our safety depth is still pretty lacking in that aspect. And then Riley Moss again back on the inactive list after being activated last week. I think it's they're just not seeing what they wanted from him. You know, everybody had big expectations from him coming out of training camp. I just don't think it's playing out in the season so far. But those are the only big inactives this week. So we should have, for the most part, a pretty decently healthy team outside of the IRs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Skinner and Moss, two inactives today. You're kind of just disappointed to see that, right? I know they're kind of later round draft picks. Moss wasn't. Moss, you traded up for him. B, he was a third round pick.
Right.
And he just can't find his way onto the active roster. So, yeah, that's a little disappointing. But you're right. Other than that, you've got a pretty healthy Broncos team coming into this. I'm anxious to see if they can be a little bit better on offense this week, especially after having the mini bye after a Thursday night. What are you expecting to see out of the Broncos on offense here, Jared?
I'm expecting a bounce back game. A little bit worried about the fact that Jair Alexander's out. I think we need a bounce back game. I think Russell Wilson needs a bounce back game. He's one of those guys this year that just can't win. He's had a pretty great season overall, except for one bad game against the Chiefs. We talked about it on the Tuesday night show, and I think it's worth mentioning again. What I think we saw on Thursday night was a lack of preparation on the Broncos' part. We've had now an extra long week to prepare for this game, and I think that we're going to come out. You're going to see the Broncos come out, especially in the first few drives, have a couple big drives. The first half is going to be really good. What we're worried about is what the expectation is going to be for the second half of the game, and where we go. But if we can put up big scoring drives in the first couple quarters, I think we have a really good chance of staying in this game. We just can't let them have it back.
Right. And here's what's kind of been concerning me about those second halves, Jared, is it feels like when you get away, and we've talked about it before this season, the scripted plays, right? It feels like when you get away from those, what my eye is seeing, my fan's eye, is that Russell Wilson is still not comfortable playing in the schedule of the Sean Payton offense. There are times, and especially during the Chiefs game, in the film study, when you look and you go, this play is structured so the ball should be out now. And that fourth down on the opening drive, I think, was that the opening drive? I think so, where they went for it on fourth down. He had Jerry Jeudy on a curl route in the flat open past the first down marker, and it was a timing route, and the ball needed to be out at a certain point. And if it was, it's an easy first down conversion, but Russell Wilson held the ball. And that's kind of been a thing that Russell Wilson has done throughout his career. It's why he's kind of been one of the more sacked quarterbacks in the history of his career. It's why offensive lines like this year, like the Broncos offensive line this year. Yeah, Mike McGlinchey has not been great in pass protection, and I think we can all just agree on that. But everybody else has been solid on this offensive line, and Russell Wilson has had more time to throw than I think he's top 10 in time to throw for quarterbacks in the league, maybe top 5. With more than 3 seconds. And I think that's really kind of what you're seeing and why those offensive struggles are manifesting. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion, but I would like to see that start to get a little better as this season goes along.
Yeah. On our Tuesday show, we could probably go into more depth, but I think that's probably a discussion we have to have is his comfort level with this offense at this point in his second year with the offense needs to be better. And it is when during the scripted play, it's really good. But like you said, when they're non-scripted or there's pressure, there's, that like we need to go down to score. There was 2 games this year that we had the ball to go down to score. And he couldn't figure it out. He had the fumble on last week. And then I think earlier in the week, I think it was the Raiders game. We had the chance to go down, score to win the game. And he doesn't have that like winning mentality right now. And we'll dive a little bit more into that on the Tuesday show. So make sure you guys are watching. But for this game, I think we have a good matchup.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The only big matchup, and we'll start it right off the bat, kind of like we do some of our pregame shows, and we'll get to some of these comments because I think Andrew's got a really good point here. Is Mike McGlinchey, as you talked about, against Rashawn Gary, who's having a very good year this year, specifically in his pass rushes. So that's going to be someone to look out for. Rashawn Gary is going to be coming after Russell Wilson, and we need to be able to protect him. The good news is we have all of our running backs are healthy. Javonte Williams looks like he's back to Javonte Williams of old, which is great. And we hopefully can keep someone in there to help give him some pass protection. But what do you think about what do you think our wide receivers? Who's going to be our top wide receiver? Last week it was Jerry Jeudy, top wide receiver in quotes.
Well, I don't know.
The week before that it was Sutton, and then Mims for the rest of the games.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And it's been weird, especially with Mims, like just not getting that many opportunities, not getting that many snaps. Like they're afraid to have Jaleel McLaughlin and Marvin Mims doing well at the same time. Really when Marvin Mims was being featured a lot in games, you didn't see a lot of Jaleel McLaughlin. Now that's kind of flipped. And I'd like to see them both out on the field because I think Sean Payton could do really good things with them, and that speed would really cross up defenses. Back to your actual question that you asked, who do you think among the wide receivers is going to have a big game? I thought Courtland Sutton had a great game against the Chiefs. He looked like kind of almost like 2019 Courtland Sutton, and I think he has really accepted his role in the Sean Payton offense. I do still think of him as a trade candidate, but we can talk about that if
it's a Tuesday night show talk.
Absolutely. So I would think I'm circling him to have another big game this game. What about you?
Yeah, I am too. Actually, I'm expecting Courtland Sutton to have a big game, specifically as a captain of that offense. One of our kind of the OGs. He's one of the older, longer tenured guys on the Broncos right now. Him and Simmons. So I'd like to really see him get going. And back to your point, I do think like it is weird with the Mims and Jaleel not both in the same game, but I'm okay with that. We know that we have that young talent going forward, going back to optimism for the season, going back to optimism for the future. We have the young talent there. It's not like we're going to sell the farm and just have nobody anymore. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. And now I'm going to go back here to Andrew's comment here, because I think this is something worth mentioning. Right now, the media is all against the Denver Broncos, and we have been too. Well, let's be honest. We've just had a rough season. So at home, if we don't get the offense going early, are we expecting some of that crowd to get really frustrated and start booing some people?
Oh, absolutely. You're the guy. They're 1-5, and even though the offense has not been the big culprit for their struggles this year so far, we talked about it. One game can kind of change that, and especially when it's a Chiefs game, it changes that perception in the fans' minds. Because when the defense does enough, when the defense holds the Chiefs to under 20 on the road in a Thursday night game, and your offense can't go out there and do it when your offense has been playing well early on in the season, and you can flip that mentality right back. And so I think the Boo Birds could be out pretty fast on this one if the offense gets off to a slow start.
And so let me go on the optimistic side, because I feel like I have some optimism going into this game. On the optimistic side, if we come out here, we take care of business on offense, our defense plays as well as they did against Kansas City. We've talked about this too. I do believe Kansas City had just as much to do with that terrible offensive performance as our defense had to do with that terrible offensive performance. But if our defense can do what they did against Kansas City, our offense can go out and do what they did against literally everybody else, except for maybe the Dolphins. But even then, we still scored 20 and we had
points.
Some drives that were
right.
But if we can put up some points on the board and our defense can hold, and we win by more than a touchdown, we win by a score, like a full score, and at some point we never feel like this game's getting out of hand, then it could start flipping the mentality of Broncos country and what we have and who we have. And I think this is like against the Packers, sure. Or against the Bears, yeah, sure. We beat the Bears. Okay, cool. That's one of those things that but against the Packers, who are supposed to be a decent team, they're struggling. But I think this is a game that we can come back to, we are an NFL team and we're not the 32nd ranked team in the league right now. Do we have the chance to kind of rebuild some momentum and faith here in Broncos country?
I mean, maybe. Maybe, because
maybe not for you.
Well, see, here's the thing for me, for one game at the very least, and if you've embraced the tank like I have, then you can at least you can feel comfortable really good about rooting for the Broncos today. And I'm not going to root actively against the Broncos to win games, but you can feel good about it because the Bears won today. So at least if the Broncos win, you're no further behind in the draft standings than you were. Now, that being said, pivoting to your question about momentum, you've got the Chiefs coming up immediately after this Packers game. And then who do you have? You've got the Bills after that. You've got your bye week in between. So you go Chiefs, bye week, Bills, who just lost to the Patriots today, who also have looked like one of the worst teams in the league. But then you go Vikings, Browns, Texans. So, I mean, the possibility is there to gain some momentum, Jared. Yes, absolutely. But, what I would have to see in order to believe that momentum is coming is I need to see a convincingly good defensive performance today.
That's it.
That's it. And not just mediocre, where you can say, oh, the Packers are shooting themselves in the foot. I need to see the defense play well today to have any kind of faith that they're going to start running off a win streak here in the next few games. You know what I mean?
And that's what I'm saying. If we can hold them under 17 points this week, and we can put up 28 to 35, I'm going to be super happy. And I'm giving away as you guys start thinking about posting your comments for what you think the score is going to be. I'll just go right into it. I think this is going to be a 17 to 28, I'll say 17 to 28 will be my score prediction for the Broncos. Our defense steps up when they need to. And we can win this solidly, right? That's still more solid than we've seen probably in the past 4 years. We haven't had a real big game that we've just absolutely destroyed another. It's a solid win where our defense holds under 20 points and our offense is firing on cylinders, at least for the most part. And then we're going into Kansas City, which we have more prep time for. Kansas City struggled also, not for nothing, in some games. And the Bears or the Bills and it's a home game, and the Bills just lost to a struggling New England team. So that's a winnable game after a bye week. So I'm interested to see how it goes. We're not in a place where we're so bad we're losing the rest of our games this year if we can do that today. But if we can't do that today, then we're back into like dead inside of like, okay, now we got the Bills and the Chiefs coming up. There's no way if we can't beat the Packers that we could beat the Bills and Chiefs.
Right. That's the thing. A lot of these games coming up look winnable or losable depending on how the team looks today, right? The Vikings, the Browns, the Texans have looked good this year. The Texans have looked surprisingly good this year. But then the Chargers after that, and then, obviously you're into December by that point when we get to that part of the schedule. But all of those teams you look at and say, all of these teams have flaws. None of these teams are perfect, and all of them are beatable by an NFL football team. But are the Broncos an NFL football team? Let's see how they play today. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, let's get to some of these just real quick. Thank you guys for joining us. Allison, appreciate it. Andrew, Anthony, welcome. No urgency. Russell, going back to that Russell Wilson talk. Yeah, absolutely. Andrew says we need to unleash Jaleel McLaughlin. I think not for nothing. We've been doing a pretty good job of using him in the roles that he needs to be because he does have. He's not a pass blocker, but he's been able to make the most of the touches that he's got and some of those like screenplays. Speaking of screenplays, please less screenplays. Like we were doing way too much screens. I think they were just so worried about the rush. They thought that they were just going to be bringing everybody every single play. But at some point during that Kansas City game, everyone was like, are we going to stop running screens or is this just going to be it for the rest of the game?
Yeah. Hopefully they run. That's another thing though. It kind of goes back to that Russell Wilson talk we were having is, does Sean Payton trust Russell Wilson to do more in this offense? Or is it just that's because, we see limited play calling because he doesn't think that Russell Wilson can operate the offense that he wants to see on the field,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting to a couple. It looks like we're a lot of Broncos going for the Broncos side. No one's picking the Packers to win, which I love. 24-16, 23-17, around the same score prediction. David, over to you. What do you think? Maybe not in a perfect world. In your mind, how do you see this game going, and what do you think the final score is going to be?
I think we're going to follow a pattern we've seen a lot in this season so far. I think we're going to start fast. I think they probably will score an opening drive points, but I think we'll probably peter out as the game goes along offensively, and we will just see if the defense can hang on, and it may come down to a last drive where, the Broncos are up and they've got to get a defensive stop, or the Broncos are down and they've got the ball and are going to go drive. Maybe they'll be successful and maybe they won't. I'm seeing a one-score game either way. I think at this point I'm seeing 20-19 Broncos.
Okay. You think it's going to be a close one?
Very close. Yeah, absolutely. But I do foresee Denver pulling this one out, and then we'll have optimism, but also questions at the end.
I gotta bounce back on that close game. Like if it's a close game, I don't think we win it because I haven't seen anything from our offense or defense. If the game is put into either one of their hands, like we're down by 2 or we're down by 1 and we have a chance to go down and kick the field goal, or we're up by 3 or we're up by 2 and we have to just make a stop to win the game. I haven't seen anything from either side that says this is a winning team that can do that in the final moments in the big time games.
Sorry. Absolutely. No, I understand. And it's hard to argue your point. You're right. There's a lack of closing, a lack of that. Put your foot down from this team we've seen at any point this season. It's cost us at least, the Washington game that I can think of, but the Raiders game, you're right. And, if we lose, we'll just have to have a different conversation on Tuesday. But as it stands right now, I do think it'll still be a close game, but I think they can win. I think they can win this one in a close game.
So as we're talking about momentum going to Kansas City, if we, let's just say in a perfect world, we win this game, what gives us more momentum going forward? A team that we see finally be able to like make a stand and do something to be able to win a close game, or a team that can score an extra, be up, even if we're up by 7 and it's up to our defense, I'm okay. Like at that point, I feel a little bit better, but at least which one are we feeling that we kind of need more, I guess is what I'm asking.
I guess probably that second one, because here's what you do, right? if that's the way you win, if you win by a touchdown or even 2 scores, then you can talk yourself into, oh, they've been building over multiple weeks now, right? Oh, they came up defensively, that they had a good effort against the Chiefs, and now they've beaten the Packers by 2 scores or whatever. So yeah, maybe this is the chance that they have to snap the streak against the Chiefs finally. It depends on how this goes, right? Like, yeah, answer your question. If you wanted to build more of that type of momentum going into the Chiefs game, yeah, you'd want to win by a bigger margin.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. That's what I want. I guess that's what I'm like really hoping for, is that like little, and all, like I said, like in the past 3 years, we haven't really had a game that I can just sit back and watch and be like, all right, we got this game in the bag. Like I can't remember the last time that we've had a game that I'm like, oh, this game looked like, I feel good. Like I feel confident. I didn't have a heart attack.
Enjoyed watching it too. Like,
right.
You know?
Like not on the edge of your seat the whole time, like and with that like internal of like, I have no clue what's going to happen, but in deep inside me, I know this is going to go bad for us. I just don't want that anymore.
I understand. I'm with you. Yeah. We'll see.
Okay, so we talked a lot about as we're about 10 minutes away from kickoff. We'll probably shut it down probably right as kickoff's going down. So thank you guys for watching us. Really appreciate it. Make sure you guys are subscribing, telling your friends.
Get us on YouTube.
YouTube for sure. David, thanks for joining me. I love our banter back and forth. So let's flip it over. We haven't really talked about, obviously, our defense been struggling. We have Baron Browning back. We're hopefully expecting him to have a big bounce back sack, which would be great. Getting back into the game. What are we worried about anybody on their offense? Obviously, Jordan Love. You already talked about Mac Jones. Not Mac Jones. Oh, man.
No, that's a different guy.
That's Aaron Jones being back in this game and the rushes. Outside of Aaron Jones, probably throwing up 150 yards on us. What else are you worried about on this offense?
I mean, this is the thing. Will the real Broncos defense please stand up? Because I need to know: are they going to give up huge down the field chunk plays to Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and it's not so much that any one of those players scares me, Jared. It's just that this Broncos defense is capable of giving up any amount to any of those people. See what I mean? That's what really gets me. And so, no, I'm not afraid of any superstars there, but yes, I am afraid that there could be big gash plays against this Broncos defense because they've just been allowing them all season.
And that's what I'm worried about too. Jordan Love has been beat up in the media as well for his lack of play in the past in the first quarter, just as much as the Broncos defense has been. So for Jordan Love, the thought process here is like, this is his game. This is his bounce back game to come back and also move momentum for the Packers to that they're a decent team, that he's a decent quarterback and the guy that they went out and got for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I'm just afraid that Jordan Love's bounce back game is going to be against us. And I don't want that. I think that our defense can stop them if they really played the way that we've seen it in the past. Maybe not this year, but maybe last week, and be able to get the pressure. Now we got our, Cooper and Browning getting pressure on the quarterback. I'm really, really worried that this is going to be Jordan Love's bounce back game. I mean, look at what we let,
Justin
Howell
Fields,
Sam Howell, and Howell.
Yeah.
Like quarterbacks that aren't supposed to be throwing for 300 yards on us or throwing for 300 yards on us. And I don't think Jordan Love deserves a 300-yard game.
No, he doesn't deserve it. But is he good? I totally see your point. It could just happen because that's what they've done. I didn't put money on it this week. I wasn't confident like I was that week, but we played the Bears. But it could just easily turn into another one of those days for this Broncos defense.
If this does end up turning into a shootout, like all of us have a relatively low score, if this ends up turning into a shootout, I just don't have faith in our offense to be able to keep up in any shootout.
No, and the running game
to be able to adjust in the second half, and we have to get the running game going. We've seen it in the past. Like we do the best when our running game is going well. And if we get either down or we end up in a shootout, then we're going to have to abandon the run game. And it's just going to be up to Russell Wilson to make the plays. And right now where we're sitting, I'm not dogging Russell Wilson. I'm not saying anybody's a terrible person. I just don't see them being able to finish it that way. And I
don't like that.
I want it so bad.
Yeah, I don't like that scenario for sure. You're right.
So their offensive line has had some struggles. They're on the our offensive line, our right tackle is our weak spot. On their offensive line, their right tackle is their strong spot. However, I think that with the amount of rushers we have, we should be able to get to Jordan Love relatively quick. But remember, he can also use his feet, which is another thing that we seem to struggle against is quarterbacks that can use their feet. So we got to be able to be real careful. And I think with Sean Payton and BJ, they're going to be very careful about the amount of rush and how they get to the quarterback. Because if they end up kicking out our edge rusher upfield, he's going to end up taking off down the sideline, giving him that much more time. And it's just going to be tough because then someone's going to be open. We have not been able to prove that with more than 3 seconds that we can cover any team in this league.
That's true.
So we got to look out for Jordan Love's feet. So Jordan Love's the one I'm really worried about. And it's really going to come down to how well he plays in this game on whether or not we win it. And by how well he plays / how well our secondary or our defensive line can be able to get to him and control him and contain him inside the pocket.
Right. Now, one thing that has not been talked about, and it's because it's just not something we talk about as often, uniform matchup. I love this uniform matchup. It's one of my favorites in the entire league. I love the green and gold for the Packers in general, but against that blue and orange of the Broncos, I think it contrasts really well. I love that the Broncos have painted the end zones orange this weekend. Just happy.
You're such a girl.
Fucking,
the uniforms look so pretty on them. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be appeasing.
It is an aesthetic choice that I choose to notice, and if you have a problem with that, you can suck my butt.
All right, guys. Game kickoff here is pretty short. Pretty soon here in about a couple minutes. So we're just gonna finish off with some final thoughts. Post some final thoughts in the comments as we get ready to wrap this up and go into the first half. Join me. I will try to be doing a halftime hash. I should be able to do a halftime hash, probably from my cell phone at halftime this game. If not, then join us for Tuesday nights, Bourbon, Broncos, and OBS. Make sure you're following us and subscribing to us on all your podcast listening platforms on Orange Weekly. Thanks again for joining the Orange Weekly Broadcast Network. David, final thoughts as we are as the Packers are heading into Mile High and getting ready for kickoff.
It's just going to be an interesting. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but I want to restate it. It's just a lot of vibes ride on this game. The Broncos' season doesn't hinge on this game in any stretch of the imagination, but the vibes are. Is this a team that comes out of this game with momentum going into the Chiefs game with like 2 weeks of momentum you can talk yourself into, or is it the team that comes out of this game 1-6, playing badly against the worst teams in the league? And then you've got the Chiefs and Bills as your next 2 games. There's a big difference, even though that's 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah. I don't think there's a game left that's going to be like a must win. I don't think we really have any must wins at this point. We're pretty much already kicked ourselves out of the playoffs, regardless of how mathematically eliminated we are or not. But I don't think there's going to be a game this year that's like, oh, we have to win this. But you're right. As far as the momentum going into the next game, as far as the rest of the season, and then the thought process from Broncos country and the media and how we look at this Denver Broncos team really rides on this game. Because if not, I mean, even if we lose this game, we come out and we could beat the Chiefs, and that's a conversation for Tuesday and for the pregame podcast. But we come out and we lose this game and we beat the Chiefs. Like, it's still kind of like we're still sitting at 1 or 2 and whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, obviously we beat the streak, but where are we as a team? Like, where's our identity? And we don't have an identity yet.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to kick it off. Like, the Broncos need to find their identity now. And if they don't find it now, we're not going to have a chance to for the rest of the season. Yeah. And even if we do at the end of the season, it's just there's going to be a lot of talk. Like, yeah. And then my last comment on this is we get ready for kickoff. It's probably already started or starting here in a couple minutes. I'm probably delayed out here in California on watching it. But we do not want to tank. We don't want to lose. Nobody wants a team to lose. And as Broncos country, we should never want a team to lose. We're going to fall where we fall, but we want the team to be able to fight as much as possible in the rest of these games. So let's have a good game. Let's go out there, put a solid game together. Let's win a game for the first time, like not handedly, but like without heart attacks along the way,
Right.
and go into a very difficult part of our schedule. And maybe we have a little bit more to talk about on Tuesday. So
yeah, maybe. All right, buddy.
All right, well, David, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Let's watch this game. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game. Join us here for Halftime Hash. We love all of you. We love the Broncos. And as always, we end it off on a very strong
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news.
I hope it ended. I hit the end button. I promise, guys. If you guys are still watching, I'm sorry.
We're still live.
Super awkward.
Yeah,
Having trouble connecting.